Welcome to another edition of the Here We Go podcast. I am Trent Ging. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I read and I saw a short clip of. Somebody talking about the offensive struggles are going to lead to this big second half free fall with the Pittsburgh Steelers and our record. And then I saw another article pop up about another analyst kind of talking about the same thing. And I'm like, are we really having this kind of an overreaction to one loss? So let's take a look at that and let's think about this realistically and see where we expect this team to go. So number one, I don't think it's any secret that we should be acknowledging that this offense starts slow. They're not putting touchdowns on the board. But let's not pretend that they're not moving the ball at all in the first half. Now, in the Cleveland game, they didn't. But as I talked about last week, that Cleveland team was very, very motivated. They came out the aggressor. They were at home. There's a lot of things that worked in their favor. And then the second half, the inclement weather really starts to settle in. And to be honest with you, we still scored 2 late touchdowns. I'm not sure why everyone is acting as if this offense was completely stagnant and didn't put up any points whatsoever. They lost a game. And again, against a division rival, for me, and maybe I'm on the minority of this, because the more I see these things coming out, the more I feel like I am in the minority. I just don't see that as much of a significant loss as losses like what we saw last year against New England. That was so clearly a bad team. Arizona, that at the time was a really, a really bad team. Excuse me. I just look at it as AFC North football. Anything can happen in the AFC North on any given Sunday. I mean, the Ravens lost to both the Raiders and the Browns. They are both god-awful teams. The Raiders is a much, much more significant loss than the Browns are, in my opinion. These teams play each other twice a year. They know each other. They know each other's personnel. They know how they like to win football games. These coaches have all coached against each other for years. I mean, Harbaugh and Tomlin have gone to, I think they're the longest tenured head-to-head rivalry in the NFL right now. I don't think it's even particularly close. But even Kevin Stefanski's been in the AFC North with Cleveland for long enough to have known everything about every other team in the AFC North. Zach Taylor's been in this division for a long time. None of these coaches are new. Just exactly why I don't think you can consider any game under any circumstances a, quote, trap game. So are we really going to pretend that because the Steelers played one bad game, that the sky is falling and they're going to win 2 games the rest of the way out? Because that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing multiple analysts out there now saying they expect this team not only to not win the division, but not even to make the playoffs. You got a long way to go before you start making claims like that. Oh, but the Bengals, their offense really hasn't been that much more productive than our offense. I mean, I get it. Like, sports journalists have to create controversy to get likes, to get people to read their stories. And it seems like so often that they choose the Steelers to kind of attach these extreme like picks to, and I'm not sure I quite understand it. So you're telling me we can beat the Baltimore Ravens, but because we lose a very close game to the Browns on a short week in their stadium in a snow globe, all of a sudden the season is now over for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, where are we? Yes, there are some serious offensive issues in the way that we start games. Okay? We will move the ball up and down the field and then get no touchdowns. And it's pretty consistently every game. We haven't had an opening drive score since Cincinnati last year with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. That's the last time. And it was really just a one play. They hit a slant route to George Pickens, and he did the rest. That was our last opening drive touchdown. That's unacceptable in the NFL. You cannot go that long without putting touchdowns on the board. We went 7 straight quarters without scoring a touchdown. That's almost 2 full games without scoring a touchdown. Now, we did win one of those games. But you can't have those kind of droughts in the NFL and expect to be a playoff team that has a lot of success. So while I will agree that getting off to slow starts and not being able to put points on the board in the first half is a major issue, I don't think it means that we're going to just all of a sudden fall off the face of the map and win 2 games the rest of the way out. We got Cleveland at home. I don't expect a repeat performance of what we saw last time, especially because this team's going to be very motivated because there's been a lot of trash talked from the Cleveland side after this game this past Thursday. Cincinnati's not going to beat us twice. And we've already beat Baltimore. We can still beat Baltimore again. The Eagles, the thing that they're so good at is the thing we're great at stopping is the run. The entire Eagles offense is based around Saquon Barkley. He just had 300 yards of total offense by himself. We shut down Derrick Henry, and everybody's acting like it's going to be some small miracle to shut down Saquon Barkley. It's not going to be easy. And I'm not saying they completely shut him down. But you guys act like it's some impossible task. We've been shutting down the run all season. J.K. Dobbins came in as the league's leading rusher. He was irrelevant in the Chargers game. Bijan Robinson, he barely did anything. He was more effective in the pass game. One good game from a guy like Tyrone Tracy, everybody's like, oh, God, now that Steve told you the Steelers' defense isn't that good. Then Baltimore comes into town and we shut down both Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry that no one else in the offense or in the entire NFL has figured out yet. No one has still figured that out. But Pittsburgh shuts them both down. But you're right, Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley is going to be a totally different task. And it's going to be completely impossible. We're drawing narratives over one game's overreaction. And I think it's a bit unnecessary. Because if we go down to Cincinnati this weekend and win that game, guess what the narrative's going to be that next Monday? Oh, the Steelers are for real. They're going to the playoff. They might actually win a game. It's going to be a 180 narrative because that's what these networks need in order to get attention, to be relevant, and to act like they're the smartest people on the planet. But they flip-flop their opinions so often. How about just staying a little bit neutral and having a little bit of common sense here and understanding that, guess what? It's the NFL. Things happen. You lose to bad teams at times. These guys all get paid millions of dollars to play a game. It's very rare that a team goes 0 for the entire season. I don't think we've seen a team go winless since the Detroit Lions. I don't know, what was that, 8 years ago? Somewhere in there. Bad teams are going to get a victory somewhere. The Carolina Panthers just took the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions to the brink. It took a field goal to win. Should we be writing off the Kansas City? Oh, the Chiefs are never going to make it out of the first round of the playoffs. They just barely squeaked by the Carolina Panthers. No, the narrative from Kansas City is, oh, they're just messing around. They're going to turn it on here once December starts. Well, it's almost December. Should we count them out? They haven't had good offensive outputs for quite a while. Should we count out the Kansas City Chiefs? Or are we going to accept that it's the NFL and things happen? And Bryce Young had one of the best games of his entire young NFL career. The narrative's got to stop around this team. The defense wasn't elite. Well, the defense was still elite, and they created 3 turnovers. Now, you want to see way more pass rush out of your front four than what we saw in that Browns game. I think there's issues schematically with the way they're using TJ Watt. I talked about that already. Now I'm seeing people from Pittsburgh local media. Minkah Fitzpatrick's been a massive disappointment this year. Minkah Fitzpatrick's playing really good football. I'm sorry, folks, but you got to learn to understand you can't intercept the ball if they don't throw the ball in your direction. I think he's too deep at times. I'll say that. That's part of why he's not having the ball thrown his direction. Actually, I think if he's playing a little more shallow, maybe he can make a play on some of those balls thrown to the tight ends in that Cleveland game. And I wonder if part of him playing so deep is because the offense has been scoring very infrequently. So one big play could cost you the game. And they're just asking Minkah to keep everything in front of him and hope that these other guys on defense make plays. And for the most part this year, it's worked. I think after Monday Night Football, we are still the number 2 ranked defense overall. So let's quit pretending that the sky is falling because we lost one game to a bad team in their stadium on a short week in a snow globe. Was the game going right in the beginning? No, absolutely not. I honestly don't think the weather affected us that much, other than the fact that once we got going, it made it difficult to keep it going because by the time we got going, it was already the second half when the snow started coming down. That was our fault, though. That wasn't the weather. And another thing is Russell Wilson's taking way too many sacks right now. He's getting back to his old habits of holding the football. I mean, 4 sacks in the first half. I mean, that can't happen. 3 of them were coverage sacks, I thought. You still got to get the ball out of your hand. Throw it away. Throw it out of bounds. Live the fight another day. Don't take a sack. I mean, the 1 sack basically knocked us into a difficult field goal. Boz misses, and it set the tone for the entire game. I don't know. I just don't think that we can really sit here and say the sky is falling because we lost one game. I do want to see the running game get back on track. Cincinnati's defense is god awful. If we cannot get out to a fast start against Cincinnati, then we might be in trouble. Because their offense is going to score. They will put up points. Burrow, Chase, and Higgins are definitely a tall task. And we have been much less effective in the pass defense than we have in the run defense. So I really think that's going to be the key to this game is can our pass defense hold up? And can we establish some offense early in this game? Because again, throw the records out the door. Cincinnati is still an AFC North team offensively playing their best ball. And you can look at the losing record, but they're losing very close games. Now they're losing because of their defense. And it's going to be up to our offense to set a tone in this game. And Colin and I will get into more of this tomorrow. But I just really feel like the sky is falling narrative is a little premature. Because you can't turn around and talk about how well they played against Baltimore and then act like they're now the worst team in the AFC North because they got beat by the Cleveland Browns and that they're not going to make the play. I mean, they have 8 wins, and I've seen one guy say they're going to finish with 9. Like, what? Look at their record. Look at their schedule. Yes, yeah, I see the schedule. It's the Chiefs that's been struggling all year. Yes, they're winning, but they're not blowing people out. They're not dominant right now. They're just finding ways to win. Same as the Pittsburgh Steelers have. Sure, they have the X factor in Patrick Mahomes. Sure, they have Travis Kelce. But they haven't been a dominant football team to where you feel like this is an impossible task. Like in years past, when we played Kansas City, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a loss. Right now, I'm not chalking that up as a loss. Not unless they start playing better between now and Christmas. We can still get hot and start playing better too. There's a lot of time before now and then to determine whether or not that game's going to be a loss. The Eagles have been playing fantastic football. But again, I just said their strength is the run game. Our greatest strength is our run defense. We can win that game. Not saying we will, just saying we can. It's not a game on the schedule that's a clear loss. Baltimore in Baltimore is going to be as difficult as any game we're going to play. That might be the most difficult game left on the schedule. Because they're going to have a motivation to beat us after losing the first time. Lamar's going to have a motivation because of the narrative. Derrick Henry wants to beat Pittsburgh to be an official Baltimore Raven. That one's going to be the most difficult on the schedule, in my opinion. Despite everybody, saying the narrative that we've got their number and this and that, we've played Lamar 5 times. I think that narrative's a little blown up proportion too. But listen, that Cleveland game is extremely winnable. I think there's no doubt in my mind we win the second time. And I honestly think we sweep Cincinnati, despite what we've seen recently. I've been saying that all year, that I think we sweep Cincinnati. I just think their defense is that bad. I think we score 30 points against them. Maybe both games. So I get that this episode was more of a rant than factually based and data driven. But I'm a little tired of the overreaction to one Browns loss. It's crazy to me how far people have gone It was a game where the perfect storm had to happen for Cleveland to win. Tomlin made horrible decisions. Arthur Smith called a bad game. I thought Terrell Austin called a bad game. The offense couldn't put points on the board and gave up 4 sacks in the first half. We shot ourselves in the foot multiple times to kill drives, which we've done throughout the season, to be honest with you. And Cleveland, quite honestly, had the good version of Jameis Winston until the end. They had all the momentum. They had to convert 4 first downs on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. I mean, they had to convert a 2-point conversion. We missed a field goal, which Boz had only missed one all game or all year. We had a 15-yard shanked punt out of bounds. I mean, they needed literally all of that to beat us. And of course, yes, our defense had a chance at the end, and they let that game slip away. They had them at a 3rd and 7, couldn't get a stop. They had multiple opportunities to get off the field, and they just didn't do it. And that's a larger narrative of not finishing out games, as well as the defense played all year. But my point is, Cleveland needed a perfect storm of things going wrong in order for them to get that win. So while it hurt, and while it was ugly, and while it doesn't look good, we're one win against Cincinnati away from being right back in the conversation of one of the best teams in the AFC. So let's pump the brakes a little bit on the overreaction because it was a rivalry game and because we should have won. That same perfect storm of things going wrong are not going to go wrong again the second time around. You shouldn't expect that same perfect storm of things going wrong to happen in Cincinnati on Sunday. Or in Baltimore, or anywhere else, because we got Cincinnati, then we got Cleveland right back. That's 2 very winnable games. If we win that, we're a 10-win team already. Both are extremely winnable games, and I think we should be favored in both, although some people are probably going to disagree with me because the first one's in Cincinnati. We can get the season right back on track, be right in the thick of things in the AFC, have an opportunity to finish first in the AFC North, have an opportunity to be the 3rd seed, and try to make a little bit of noise in the playoff. So the sky is not falling right now. We are not playing our best football, but there's a lot of time left in this season. So let me know what you all think. Are you tired of the overreactions? Are you playing into the overreactions? Are you part of the overreaction? Do you think these issues are large enough to where we cannot overcome them and we will fall apart similar to what we did in 2020? Or do you think this was just one game? Let me know what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. Hope you all have a great day.